Hello guys. Now today in this lecture we are going to see endocrine system. Now endocrine system is actually a kind of coordinating system, and coordination in the human organism is done by two different systems, that is nervous system and endocrine system. Here in this lecture we need to see the endocrine system. Nervous system is already we saw in our previous lecture. Now what is the difference in between nervous system and endocrine system? So if you see the difference, then you'll find out that nervous system transmit the electrical impulse, right? And here the transmission is through by chemical signals or chemical biological messenger. Here in the nervous system, the neurons are useful to transmit the signal, and in the endocrine system, circulatory system is there to translate or to transmit the signal. In the nervous system, signal transmission is very much fast, okay, if we compare with the endocrine system, okay, in comparison. And if you see the endocrine system, signal transmission is very much slow, again in comparison with nervous system. In the nervous system, the whatever effect is there, it is localized effect, okay, and here the effect is widespread. So what is meant by localized effect? Suppose that immediately to your particular hand region, right? Suppose this is the hand region, your right, and if there is some sort of injury over here, immediately you will get you will send a message to your brain immediately, and through motor neuron, the sensory neuron, the message has been sent. Motor neuron, the sensation comes up and it will tells you that where the injury happens. So this is localized, immediately localized effect is there. Next thing that we need to see is the endocrine glands and hormones. What different glands are there and what different hormones are there? We'll see one by one. So first of all, what is endocrine gland? Endocrine glands are called it as ductless gland. They don't have ducts, okay, they don't have tubes. They secrete hormones. It is the chemical kind of thing which is made up of a amino acid. It is the proteins basically. So we can say that all the hormones are proteins, but all the proteins are not hormone, okay, remember this one. Hormones are non-nutrient chemicals, act as a intracellular messenger. They are non-nutrient chemical. That means hormone don't give any type of nutrition to the body, okay. So they are produced in trace amount, very much trace amount, okay, and they are very well effective, targeted and very specific. So what different glands are there in human body primarily? Okay, we'll see that. The first gland is pituitary gland. So this pituitary gland is situated just beneath the brain, you can see that, and which is also called it as master gland, right? Then the pineal gland is there. It is just near the region of pituitary gland. Then thyroid gland is there, which is situated in the neck region of human, you can see over here. Then parathyroid glands, which is again situated within the thyroid gland, okay, within the thyroid gland. These are, okay, the small dots, okay. Then thymus gland. Now it is just above the heart, okay, the heart which is present over here, and above that the thymus gland is there. Now you all know thymus is very much important in immune regulation also, okay, while the T cells get matured in thymus. Now the next one is adrenal gland. It is above the renal unit, or what we call it as kidney, right? Kidney. Above the kidney, tooth and adrenal glands are there in the number of 2, okay, remember. And parathyroid, there are 4 glands are there, parathyroid, remember. Now then next one is pancreas. Now pancreas is just below the liver, okay, just below the liver. The pancreas is, which is in a very small size but very very important. You all know currently we are facing with a very issue with the diabetes, right? Diabetes mellitus type 2, that is related to absence of insulin or decrease in the amount of insulin within the body. So glucose uptake is completely absent or minimized, and so pancreas is very much effective in production of insulin hormone. Next one is gonads, okay. In the male, testes are there and female ovaries are there, which produces a number of hormones which are very important for the growth of the body. Next one is we'll see the hypothalamus. What is hypothalamus, guys? Now you can see the overall brain, and this region over here, can you see this region over here? This region is called it as hypothalamus region, okay, which is very important, and which is also secretes so many amounts of hormones, okay, hypothalamic hormone. Now we'll see below the thalamus, okay, below the thalamus, okay, and it synthesizes and secretes certain neurohormones, okay. The hypothalamus secretes certain neurohormones which immediately go and bind to different glands. First of all, pituitary gland, and then ultimately pituitary gland secretes several messenger molecule to other endocrine system, okay. So this is how step by step it works. These hormones regulate the synthesis, secretion of a pituitary hormones. Like I said, two types of hormones which is produced by hypothalamus. Remember these two: releasing hormone and inhibiting hormone. Releasing hormones means what? It tells other glands to release something, to secrete some messenger molecule, right? And inhibition means what? To tell other glands to stop the production of that particular hormone or that particular hormone component, okay. So what it exactly synthesizes and releases? It synthesizes hypophysiotropic hormones, okay. Hypophysiotropic hormone, which are they? First of all, TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone, then corticotropin releasing hormone, then gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is again very important in respect to gonads, then growth hormones releasing hormone, GHRH, growth hormone inhibiting hormone, GHIH, prolactin releasing hormone, and prolactin inhibiting hormone. So basically, if you see about the hypothalamus, here you can see this is the pituitary gland, and we can say is the adenohypophysis, and these are the cells of the glands which secretes a kind of messenger molecule and released directly into blood capillaries, okay. So ultimately these blood capillaries conducts this messenger molecule. Now what it is the like thyrotropin hormone, which is somehow related to thyroid gland, okay. Then corticotropin hormone, okay, then gonadotropin, then growth hormones, which is very important. These five hormones which is really important, guys, very important, okay. Next one we'll see pituitary gland, where it is actually situated. So this is the hypothalamus which we saw, and just below the hypothalamus the pituitary glands are there, okay. And there are sections of pituitary glands are there, which is called it as anterior pituitary gland, and second one is posterior pituitary gland. Anterior means what? The earliest part of the pituitary gland, okay, and the posterior part. So the anterior part is also divided in three different parts, okay, that is pars tuberalis, then pars intermedia, then pars distalis, okay, which is attached to the hypothalamus by the segment called infundibulum, right? So the marble sized gland at the base of the membrane, and it is called it as the master gland, okay. And the location in the bony cavity called sella turcica. The pituitary gland is not just hanging in the empty surface, or it is covered with a particular bony structure. The bony structure is there to protect that gland, because it performs the very major functions, right? The pituitary gland is controlled by the hypothalamus. You all know, last time we saw that in earlier one of the slide, or other neural mechanisms, okay. So therefore it is also called it as middleman. The pituitary gland is the middleman which controlled by hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland further control the other endocrine gland. So it divided, like I said, the adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis, right? So two sections we saw, the anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. In anterior pituitary, what hormones exactly anterior pituitary gland produce? The first one is growth hormone, second one is thyroid stimulating hormone, then the adrenocorticotropic hormone, then prolactin hormone, which is very important in the secretion of milk. Then luteinizing hormone, again the same function during the pregnancy. Then follicle stimulating hormone during the maturation of follicle. Okay, then posterior pituitary gland, what it produces? Oxytocin, right? And the vasopressin, or like we can say other name is antidiuretic hormone. We'll see one by one the details of these hormones and what they do. The growth hormone which we saw, okay, the role of pituitary hormones. The target is all the cells in the body, because all the cells need growth. Okay, they say they divide and they grow. So stimulates the growth and repair. The hypersecretion of growth hormone leads to gigantism. If we see the peoples with a very good, very excessive height, right? If you see very excessive height of the person, like it is tall, very tall. If we compare the average person, if we compare with the average person, they are very tall, very tall. So these peoples are generally affected with the excessive secretion of growth hormone. So that's why we called it as, that disorder we called it as gigantism. And the low secretion of growth hormone results in stunted growth called dwarfism. Okay, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which is secreted by what? The thyroid and, no sorry, pituitary gland, I'm sorry, and the receptor of this TSH is thyroid gland. Okay, target is thyroid gland. It stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete hormones called thyroxine, okay, which is a growth hormone. Again I will see that. Then triiodothyronine T3, it regulates the body's metabolic activity. Then Adrenocorticotropic Hormone, what is ACTH? The Adrenocorticotropic Hormone stimulates Adrenal Gland to produce what, or to stimulates Adrenal Gland to produce glucocorticoids. This is a stimulatory hormones which is very important in immune response, okay, in other metabolic activity, in muscular development, everywhere glucocorticoids is very much helpful. Then next one is that prolactin hormone. Okay, this prolactin hormone, the target is the mammary gland. Okay, mammary gland, the breast. It stimulates what? The growth of mammary gland and the formation of milk. Then luteinizing hormone. Okay, this hormone is actually go and binds to the testes, the gonads of the male and the gonads of the female, that is ovary. The LH and follicle stimulating hormones are called gonadotropin hormones, are stimulate the gonadal activity. The LH stimulates the synthesis and secretion of hormones called adrenogens or androgens, not adrenogens, I'm sorry. Okay, so androgens from the testes, which simulates gamete formation or spermatogenesis in the testes. And in ovary it produces estrogen and progesterone, which stimulates the follicle development and then ultimately release of follicle or ovum, right? The other hormones from pituitary gland is FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, like I said. Okay, it stimulates growth and development of ovarian follicle in female. Then the next hormone is MSH. Okay, that is the target is melanocytes in the skin, stimulates the production and release of melanin pigmentation. That's why some peoples, or the tropical region peoples or the Indian peoples, typically have a grayish tinge on their skin, which regulates the pigmentation of the skin. These pigmentation are helpful in what do we call, it is the defense mechanism against the UV radiation or such a heat infrared radiation, so it will not damage the skin as much. Okay, so next one is oxytocin hormone. Oxytocin, which is directly go and bind to uterus and breast, stimulates the vigorous contractions of uterus at the time of childbirth. Okay, and the milk ejections from the mammary gland. So that hormone is injected during the delivery period or that time of pregnancy to the women's to produce a heavy amount of milk at the time of childbirth, and also it stimulates vigorous contraction to produce childbirth. Okay, So then the next one is vasopressin hormone or ADH. What is it? It is produced by kidney, hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone. So this stimulates the reabsorption of water and electrolytes by distal tubules and reduce the loss of water through urine. Why this hormone is very important? See guys, if we are in stress or if we are doing exercise, then at that time we need a water plus electronic content or ions, okay, plus energy. We need energy also at the time of stress, or if we are in the exercise, or if we are doing a heavy muscular exercise, okay. So that's why this hormone regulates the water content which is going outside the body through our excretory system. It inhibits that conduction so that body will utilize the water as much as water it can, or electrolytes it can. Okay, I hope so you understood this one. Next gland is pineal gland. The pineal gland is reddish gray and about the size of grain of rice in the human. This is very small gland. The location is dorsal side of forebrain. The hormone it produces is melatonin. These hormones, it affects the modulation of sleep patterns in the circadian rhythms and seasonal functions. So this melatonin is very much important during the night or the early in the night, like up to 9 to 12 p.m. At that time there is a heavy amount of secretion of melatonin is there in the body. If we don't sleep at that time, immediately what, the melanin hormone decreases its amount and we don't feel sleepiness at that time. Okay, it helps in maintaining the body temperature also. It influences metabolism, pigmentation, the menstrual cycle, as well as our defense capability, right? Then if we see thyroid gland, you can see that the larynx and pharynx are here, trachea is here, and here there is a thyroid gland completely situated like a H shape, okay, surrounded to the trachea. The location, you all know that the composition, it composed of two lobes are there, one and second lobe is there, okay. Now what thyroid gland is composed of? It is composed of follicles and stromal tissue, okay. Each thyroid follicles is composed of follicular cells, okay, enclosing the cavity. Follicular cells has a big secretory what do we call it, secretory components within the cells, so that it will produce heavy amount of hormone and it will secrete them out of the cells. That is this quality or speciality about the follicular cells. What thyroid hormones are there? T4, like we call it as thyroxine. The other name is as tetraiodothyronine, okay, T4, and the T3, that is triiodothyronine. So guys, the function of thyroid hormones, it regulates the basal metabolic rate of the human body. It controls metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. It maintains the water content and electrolyte balance. It secretes the thyrocalcitonin, that is TCT, which regulates the blood calcium level also. It supports the process of red blood cell formation. So guys, this is the big one. The hormone is very big one. So you can say that the thyroid hormone is the master hormone, we can say in our study. If you see the disorders, the people who don't produce the ample amount of thyroid hormone or abnormal low thyroid hormone production, they will go ahead with the hyperthyroidism. You can see this is the man with the hyperthyroidism characteristic. Then the hypothyroidism, right? So hypothyroidism, this is the man with the hypothyroidism. I'm wrong. And hyperthyroidism is the condition in which thyroid gland produces and secretes excessive amount of thyroid hormone, that is T3 and T4. Here you can see hyperthyroidism or the goiter also there, right? Next one is parathyroid gland. Now what is parathyroid gland? Parathyroid gland is situated here, okay. These are the parathyroid glands. You can see the 4 parathyroid glands are there, location within the thyroid gland. And what do they produce? They produces parathyroid hormone. What it does, the parathyroid hormone regulates the amount of calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, these very exquisite ions in the bones and bloods. Okay, it increases blood calcium level also to maintain the calcium balance in the body. So this is very important, parathyroid hormone, right? Then thymus gland. Okay, so thymus gland. So next gland, location dorsal side of the heart and aorta. The hormones is thymosin hormone, which it produces. What is the role of thymosin? The plays an important role in the development of immune system. The role of thymosin is, again, they provide the cell mediated immunity. I told you that the T cell maturation is done within the thymus. Okay, it promotes the production of antibodies to provide humoral immunity. Thymus is generated in the old individual. Okay, next one, the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland, which is present at the anterior part of the kidney, anterior part, and there are two sections of adrenal gland. One is medulla, which is the inside surface, and the outer surface is called it as cortex. Okay, two types of tissues are there, like I said, adrenal medulla and adrenal cortex. So adrenal gland is divided as such. I told you that medulla and cortex. The inner part is medulla, which is again subdivided with respect to hormones production. If you see, adrenaline or epinephrine, which is produced by this medulla of the adrenal gland, or noradrenaline or norepinephrine, which is produced again by medulla. And if you see the adrenal cortex, the outer part of the adrenal gland, which is going to produce, or which is just produce corticoids hormone. Okay, now we'll see the functions and the with respect to the hormones. Adrenal medulla releases catecholamines. Okay, that is adrenaline and non-adrenaline. These hormones are released in the stressful situation, hence called emergency hormones. Okay, or sometimes if we fight, or if we, what do we call, if we are suddenly, if we are in a stress, immediately this hormone gets generated through adrenaline gland. These hormones increases heartbeats. If you see, guys, if we are on the road, and immediately if there is a suddenly some vehicle comes to us immediately, and it stops at our just before 1 meter distance, immediately you just, there is a big fear of accident, and so our heartbeats is little bit increased, not little bit, the very much increased. The alertness is there. It actually increases the pupillary dilation, piloerections, raising of the hairs, and sweating. So this is very much important hormones. Adrenal cortex divided into 3 layers. Adrenal cortex, the outer layer, which is zona reticularis, that is inner layer, zona fasciculata, that is middle layer, and zona glomerulosa, okay, that is outer layer. The inner layer, which is produced, the inner layer produces androgen hormones. The middle layer produces glucocorticoids, and the outer layer produces mineralocorticoids, right? The function of these adrenal medulla and cortex are kind of, say, is very fascinating to the humans. If we peoples are in the stress, what happens immediately? The stress, immediately what, the nerve cells getting the messages. What they are getting messages that they are in stress, or they are in certain situations. So immediately hypothalamus, okay, releases particular hormone. Then these hormones are going to bind to anterior pituitary gland and releases adrenocorticotropic hormone. The adrenocorticotropic hormones, which is released in the blood, will reach to the adrenal gland, and adrenal cortex hormone now sensitized through this ACTH and produces glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, or even though adrenaline hormone also, to relieve from the stress. What is the function of these mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids? Glucocorticoids, they are helpful in proteins and fats broken down and converted to glucose, leading to increase in blood glucose level, because at that time, if you are in stress, muscles need more glucose level for the metabolism. And it also boosts up the immune system, okay, immune system. So that's why also glucose need is there. So glucocorticoids to boost up the immune response. The same glucocorticoids or mineralocorticoids, same structure, another stereotypic materials are also there, and we call them as steroids, guys, steroids. Now I guess you will come to know that what is meant by steroids, okay, and what is the function of steroids. The short-term stress hormones are there, glycogen broken down into the glucose, increase blood pressure, increase breathing rate, increase metabolic rate. These are all activities been done. So I guess you all know how it is happening. Now the pancreas. Now what is pancreas? It is just situated below the liver. You can see that pancreas are there, and within them the tubule like sections are there. You can see the pancreatic ducts are there. These are pancreatic ducts. The cells which is present, there are also some cells we called it as the islets of Langerhans, okay, which what do we call the islets of Langerhans, or acini cells, which produces the hormones. We call it as what do we call different hormones like glucagon or insulin. But here pancreas, the islets of Langerhans, has also two types of cells. One cell is alpha cells, right, and the other one is beta cells. Alpha cell and beta cells. Alpha cells specifically produces glucagon hormone, and beta cells specifically produces insulin hormone, right. Now we'll see the function of glucagon and insulin. What exactly happen when there is a high blood pressure? Suppose high blood pressure promotes insulin release. What happen? Insulin release, okay. And if there is a low blood sugar content, low blood sugar, okay, at that time what happen? It promotes the glucagon release. It tells the pancreatic, the islets of Langerhans, that to produce glucagon. Glucagon goes and binds to hepatic cells, okay. It stimulates the glycogen breakdown pathway. Immediately what glycogen stores in the liver, it broken down, or it breaks down and releases glucose molecule. So again glucose is released into the blood, and ultimately blood sugar level increases. If there is an increase in the blood sugar level, what happened? It promotes insulin's release. What happened? Once the insulin is released through pancreas or the beta cells of these islets of Langerhans, it just go and bind to the hepatic cells, the tissue cells, right, okay, and it allows that tissue cells to stimulate the glucose uptake from the blood. Whatever excess amount of glucose which present, or whatever excess amount of sugar moieties which is present in the blood, the tissue just absorb immediately, right, and it immediately radially goes to the lower blood sugar content. So this is how overall glucagon and insulin functions. Next that we need to see is the testes. This is the male reproductive system, and if you see this whole part of the tissue or the organ is called as testes. Within the testes, these sections are there, which is the seminiferous tubules. This tubules which are situated, and these seminiferous tubules are very much important for the production of sperms, okay. You can see how exactly these seminiferous tubules actually helpful. It composed of seminiferous tubules, interstitial tissue, the Leydig cells, okay, or the interstitial cells are there within this. Suppose if we take a transverse section of this seminiferous tubule, you can see that these Leydig cells or interstitial cells which is present at that site, okay. This is the site of the seminiferous tubule. These cells are present. What do they do? Once there is a maturation, once there is a, suppose this is the mother follicle cells, okay, these are follicle cells which is now going to become go down to become a sperm cells, and then ultimately these cells, while traveling, these cells gives the nourishment, okay. During the puberty, testosterone hormones, okay, which is produced by these Leydig or interstitial cells, okay, the androgen hormone, that is called as testosterone in male, okay. The testosterone helps to bring about the following physical changes that turns a boy into the adult male. It increases the muscle mass and strength, it increases in the height, the growth of facial and pubic hair is there, the deepening of the voice and male hair patterns, the sperm production, it increases the sperm production through spermatogenesis, right. So these are the hormones of testosterone, the functions of testosterone. So next one is the female hormones, right? The ovary gland. The location is a pair of ovary. Now the pair of ovary is located in the abdomen of the female. It is in a primary female sex organs which produces one ovum during each menstrual cycle. It produces two groups of steroid hormones. What is it? Estrogen and progesterone. Right? What is the function of estrogen? Estrogen is synthesized and secreted by ovarian follicle. Right? It is responsible for the development of growing ovarian follicle and the appearance of female secondary sex characteristic at the puberty, such as high pitch of voice, development of mammary gland, etc. And the next one is the progesterone. The progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum. The corpus luteum, which is generated after the release of ovum. It regulates the female sexual behavior. It prepares the uterus for the pregnancy and the mammary gland for the lactation. Okay, progesterone supports pregnancy also, which is very much important hormone. So hormones of heart and kidney and GI tracts, the further, which is generally we don't concentrate on these hormones, but they are very important. Like arterial wall of heart secretes the peptide hormones called arterial natriuretic factor, that is called it as A and F, which decreases the blood pressure. Okay, the arterial natriuretic factor. Then next one is juxtaglomerular cells of kidney. They produces peptide hormones, that is called it as erythropoietin, which stimulates the erythropoiesis, that means formation of red blood cells. The gastrointestinal tract also secretes some major peptide hormones. These are called it as gastrin, secretin, okay, cholecystokinin CCK, or gastric inhibitory peptide hormones. Right? The gastrointestinal tract, they are producing certain 4 hormones. We will see the functions. The gastrin acts on the gastric glands and stimulate the secretion of hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. The secretin acts on the exocrine pancreas and stimulates the secretion of water and bicarbonate ions. Cholecystokinin, the CCK, acts on both pancreas and gallbladder and stimulates the secretion of pancreatic enzymes or the bile juices for the digestion. And gastric inhibitory peptide hormone, these peptides, they inhibit the gastric secretion and motility. Right? If there is ample amount of digestion, no need to secrete this what do we call secretion of this gastrin and secretin. So to stop these secretion, the GIP is very important, and those people who are generally affected with these inhibitory peptide hormones, they will